All right, Death Stranding 2. It's out now. I want to talk about it a lot. The before you buy video, I did that on Game Ranks. If you haven't seen that already, check that out. But here I like to come over and deep dive and talk a little bit more about what I really loved the most personally, what I thought some of the best aspects of the game were. And Death Stranding 2 really is just an interesting thing to talk about because it is still flawed. It still has a lot of the issues that I personally had with the first game. But I think the best thing about it is that it is an improvement across the board for the things that I was looking for, right? Stronger story, characters, better pacing, so storytelling stuff, but then also gameplay, more emphasis on combat, stealth, flexibility, options, with still that addictive delivery loop. Like it to me, there's more flexibility, more creativity, and just a bit more fun. Now, some of that and some of the additions may contradict some of what made the gameplay aspects of the first game so special, and I'll get into that, but ultimately, I think I'm talking to people who are interested in the game. I think that a lot of people write the game off as quote unquote walking simulator, which I get it. And I get it with the first one. And it is a funny joke. But with the second game, like if you just look at gameplay for more than like 3 seconds and see that it's not a walking simulator with all the systems and crazy shit this game has going on gameplay wise and structure wise. But that aside, like I'm not here to defend the game. I am here to just say, I think people often judge a book by its cover. And like if you're judging Death Stranding or if you just decided Death Stranding is not for you, that's cool. That's totally fine. This video probably isn't for you then because I'm going to talk a lot about the game. I'm not going to talk about spoilers, by the way. This is going to be spoiler free. I really do want to talk spoilers, so I might do that in a separate video at some point if it's justified. But really, I just genuinely like this game because it did the sequel thing. It kind of upped the ante of everything. More of everything, bigger and better, like all that type of thing. But it worked for me, right? So for what I realized the most with Death Stranding 2 was I was a lot more addicted to it than the first game. The first game I really enjoyed. You know, it's not my favorite game ever, but I really, really enjoyed it. But with the second game, I really, really have that addictive loop. Like I really got hooked on it specifically, I think, because I love the way the game really doles out tools and everything this time around. Like it's the same shit as the first game. Like structurally, like a lot of the stuff, a lot of the animations, a lot of the delivery mechanism is exactly the same, right? Which is kind of crazy. But you know, you're delivering stuff and you're increasing your star rating with all these people you're delivering to. And you know, the higher you rank, the more stuff you get. So it encourages you to do side quests, do side deliveries and stuff like that to rank these individual people up and get more tools from them. This time around, I just really, really liked the tools. I found them more compelling and I found just a lot more variety to them. And I think a lot of that came down to the fact that the game also embraced a lot more stealth and combat. The game throws you in a lot more situations where you have to deal with enemies or deal with them, you know, one way or another, completely avoid them or do some stealth, or just shoot them and kill them. And I liken this, I said this in the Friends Per Second podcast, right? For me, Death Stranding 1 is Breath of the Wild, where Death Stranding 2 is Tears of the Kingdom. So where Death Stranding 1 and Breath of the Wild are the concept of the game, wide open spaces, freedom, simplicity, all that. Death Stranding 2 and Tears of the Kingdom is where the game just goes cuckoo banana mode and just like adds a bunch of shit on top of everything and lets you go crazy and gives more player freedom, more player flexibility and stuff like that. The only difference though is that I don't think Death Stranding 2 like introduces challenges in the proper way to really justify a lot of that. To me, it just kind of feels like I'm playing Endgame Death Stranding 1 or Death Stranding 1 Director's Cut or whatever it was called, where there's a bunch of added shit in and you can kind of not break the game, but bend the game's rules to your whim a little bit. I just happen to have a good time with that. I do think that it loses sight of the original game, some of those like arduous journeys. I have so many stories of just crazy moments in that first game where like I almost died or I almost fell down a mountain and it was so hard and I climbed this mountain and all that stuff, right? This game still has that. This game still has that and you kind of have to seek it out or you have to work for that or really set yourself up to have that type of adventure. But there is also a lot of emphasis on just driving, making things a lot easier. And that does mean some of the charm is lost, especially for me personally, because like the vehicles aren't that exciting. I love cool, weird cars and stuff. And the game introduces so much other weird and cool tech. The vehicles kind of fall short, and it sucks because you got to use them. But then also, you're using all the chiral network stuff. You're using zip lines like you were in the first game. You're using bridges that either you built or other people built. But now it's like even more insane because you can ride a coffin and do flips and all this shit. But like once it clicked with me, and I was like, whatever, man, I'm just here for a good time, not a long time. I embraced what the game was really setting up, and I just dove in head first and tried all this weird, wacky stuff. All the strange tools you get along the way that I won't spoil for combat or just for exploration, right? I am not usually the type of person that does all the side quests for something, unless I really love a game. Like, I'm not the type of person that does all the side quests and then like, oh, I'm going to experiment. I'm going to try that. I don't usually use this weapon, but I'm going to try it here. I don't usually do that. I like what I like in a game, and I kind of stick to my, I stay in my lane. But with Death Stranding 2, I liked the loop, and I liked the tech you got, that I just found myself diving in head first and messing around. Part of that is a double-edged sword, because number one, the game lets you do that. It's flexible. But also, on the other hand, it is very easy. On normal difficulty, like, it was a cakewalk. I only died like 4 times in my like whole playthrough, like almost 50 hours, something like that. That's insane. At the end of the game, you're able to like go back into the world, and you can choose to have like the difficulty ramped up. I haven't really tested that out yet, but just the main game, it was far too easy. But again, that game world is just filled with cool stuff, right? Like cool enemy types, good boss battles, but also, you're riding on these roads that hopefully people have built out by now. I only had a couple of roads because I was playing during like the review process, so I had it much tougher. But like, if you have some roads built, you have the bike, if you have the level 2 roads, parts of the map can turn into like Tron light cycle like zones, which is just really cool, and I didn't expect that. The sense of speed is really good. That's fun. So like parts of the game with like the weather effects, which like I really like the weather effects. It can rain, floodwaters can rise and cause issue for like you having more to cross, or it'll ruin a ladder you put across, stuff like that. But like I wish there was more of that. I wish the game actually took more advantage of that. Where it is fun is sandstorms and stuff like that, where there's one I stumbled into that totally felt like to me like ripped from Fury Road, Mad Max Fury Road. Like obviously Hideo Kojima, big movie fan. That to me just felt like a direct, like just the way it felt in the sandstorm, the bright red colors, the flash of lightning. It was perfectly well done and perfectly matched to George Miller's Fury Road. And I just like stuff like that. And the game has a lot of stumbling upon cool shit like that, which kind of leads me to all the story stuff. So I like the story more this time around. I was way more invested, right? Because the first game, I think it built out a really cool, really interesting world. I love the lore. I love the concepts, the big questions behind Timefall, Death Stranding, the fact that the Death Stranding brought about this new fractured world, how people get by in it, void outs, like BTs, conceptually, all that stuff, really, really cool. But I found the story kind of piecemealed out in a way that didn't work for me. I felt like it was too backloaded. I feel like it dumped a lot on you at the end. And I found myself playing through that game, having a fun time, going on my big walks with my packages, right? But eventually felt like, oh, maybe I'll get somewhere where someone will give me a cutscene. And the cutscene is usually just like something cool happens that's not connected to you, or a guy talks at you for a while and it's vaguely interesting, and then you move on. With Death Stranding 2, I found it just paced better. I found like right from the beginning, it was established, this is what's going on. And then consistently throughout the game, I was given morsels. I was given interesting things. I was given character moments. I was given like an ensemble cast and people to get excited for and reasons to move along this adventure. More deliveries in this game feel like they have an urgency. They're really driving you forward, not just to like connect the chiral network like you did in the first game, but for actual genuine reasons that pertain really to the story moments at hand. So pacing wise, I was just much happier this time around. I was way more along for this ride because, again, you have this crew with you for a lot of the game that, they're all pretty interesting. Some of them are kind of introduced, and I don't think like their payoff is enough. It's kind of just like, I think Hideo just kind of like liked that actor, but I'll get to the Hideo Kojima stuff. But like, I think I just liked a lot of like, and again, some of it might be okay. All right. I should probably, before going forward, I assume a lot of you guys have watched me for a while, but I shouldn't because there have been a lot of new subscribers here. But like, I've been deeply on record for a decade now about how I am a big Metal Gear Solid fanboy, like huge from day one, like 1998 Metal Gear Solid. And I'm a Hideo Kojima fanboy. I understand the criticisms. And like I said, I had some issues with Death Stranding 1, but I am biased. Like, I am willing to be open to some of this stuff and some of the flaws because I do like his approach. I do like his creativity. And it's not necessarily me glazing this guy who some people might think is an overrated auteur or something like that, right? It's more, I like how he commands a team, how his ideas are filtered through all the people he brings around him and the decisions he makes and everything. So it's like, it's not just him, but it's like, it's Yoji Shinkawa as well. It's the people who he brings on to make the music. It's people who help him write. It's people who translate, like all that stuff. I just likes how it's always, I just always like Metal Gear Solid, Zone of the Enders. Like I just like I like what they're throwing up, you know? So is Death Stranding 2 kind of referential to Metal Gear in some ways, like tongue-in-cheek? Yeah, sure. It's not that it like references Metal Gear Solid that makes me like it, right? Like it's not like, oh cool, it has a guy with a headband that looks like Snake, or the ship you're in with your crew looks like Metal Gear Rex. It's not really that. It's to me, it's just that kind of like zany fun factor that yes, Death Stranding 1 had, but here even more in terms of just sci-fi and cool shit, which again, like, okay, so the DHV Magellan is like your main ship. It's kind of like your base of operations that is sometimes there for you after a long hike. Like it depends obviously in the game, but I just thought it was cool as hell. I thought it was just like a cool ship, not just because it looked like Metal Gear Rex, but just because it was a cool ass ship with a cool interior, and it was filled with characters I found interesting, and I wanted to see what their deal was. Each of them was weird and had their own interesting quirk, and I wanted to see some of these mysteries unfurl. To you going down into enemy bases and squaring off against soldiers that look cool as hell, that look like perfect Yoji Shinkawa design. To robots that look so cool that are like just peak Shinkawa art direction, like peak Shinkawa sci-fi. Like let the man do sci-fi and robots forever because they're so fucking good. And I loved all of that. Like that's what this game gave me. The Death Stranding 1 didn't quite in the same way. So cooler enemy soldier designs, cooler technology, way cooler weapon design, cooler enemies. I actually wish it's not as scary or kind of like dreary and creepy as the first game. I kind of miss that. But what you get here is Troy Baker being like an insane, like Brendan Lee, the Crow guy, like cyborg ninja hybrid, insane thing. And I loved it. I couldn't get enough of that stuff. Higgs here as one of the main antagonists, I really, really enjoyed because he's just like, honestly, doing his own thing. It felt very much like this time around, like Hideo Kojima was like, all right, Troy Baker, really do your thing. Like, just be your weird actor self. Go nuts. Here's your Joker moment. And it worked. I found him incredibly compelling, and I couldn't keep my eyes off him anytime he was on screen. And what was great is that he was trickled throughout the story. It was paced well. He didn't show up once in the middle and once at the end. He was throughout the journey. You didn't know when he was going to pop up and screw stuff up. And that, I think, is the makings of a good adventure. But he looked cool as hell, but also just going back to like collaboration and Hideo Kojima and teams and stuff like that, some of the action cutscene direction here was on another level. There were moments and like, again, I'm going to be like a little referential, but like there were moments in this game, like how they were choreographed, like how they were shot and directed, so to speak, that really took me back to seeing Raiden be a cyborg ninja for the first time in Metal Gear Solid 4, when he takes down all the Metal Gears and you see him jumping and flipping and there's no music. It's just him being awesome. And it's incredibly well shot and orchestrated. And you're just like, holy shit, what the fuck is this? This game had a lot of moments like that, a lot of really great sequences like that. But not only cutscenes, there were some gameplay moments that I found to be unbelievable. And I'm only referencing what was shown in like one of the early trailers. You see this guy, his name is Neil. He has the Solid Snake headband. He's surrounded by skeleton soldiers. Basically, it's the Cliff thing from Death Stranding 1, but here in Death Stranding 2. So you are transported and you have to fight him. And it's very similar to Death Stranding 1, but I think here the fights felt better because this game was a little bit more competent in like weapons and control and just like how it all felt, but also level design, scenario design, incredibly stunning visuals graphically, and like lighting and stuff like that too, but also just like art direction and design that just like really scratched my itches. Does that make sense? Some of these gameplay scenarios just really like, I found them incredibly memorable. In this day and age, when I watch something, like I watch something on Netflix, or like I play a game, or I download a game or whatever, like for me at this point, all I'm looking for is like having fun, but also things that I will remember, things that stick with me. And I think Death Stranding 2 provided a lot of that in spades. Where it does still fall short, and what I've had an issue with is some of the story. It's just so excited to over-explain everything to you. Now, I know that is like a chosen style. It was very much a thing in Death Stranding 1. It was actually a lot more so in Death Stranding 1 to me. But this game is so it just wants to over-explain every single little thing to you, to the point of it being kind of grating and monotonous after a while, and it does lose some of its charm. Not in the way that it's annoying, but I think it actually just gets in the way of good story beats and emotional moments. Those are still there in the game, but they're bogged down, or almost like essentially like there could have been more, but the game is wasting its time explaining something that doesn't really matter. And like, you know, Hideo Kojima games previously have had stuff like this, but the way it goes down here, it doesn't, like, so Death Stranding 2 is so excited. It's like stumbling over itself to like, dude, I gotta explain this to you about like why a piece of technology works, or why some very small thing in the game world that you're never even gonna actually see is the way it is. And it is very excited to like halt the story and explain this shit to you while you kind of lose that momentum. Where, you know, at the very least in the Metal Gear Solid games, when it was like so excited to like long-windedly explain something to you, you would learn something. It was like about the military industrial complex, or the age of information technology, or something like that. Death Stranding 2 is very excited about its own lore, and I get that some of it can prove a bigger point, but it's in danger of, especially if you're like me, you're not like super smart, like it's in danger of kind of stumbling into like territory where you're gonna like, I don't know, like fall off, or like your brain's gonna like go, wait, what happened, for a second. So yeah, Death Stranding 2 is very much like, this is why the world is this way, and this happened to this person, and this technology is like this because of this, even though you've never seen this and we're never going to show it to you, right? Whereas Metal Gear Solid 1 was like, hey, you saved the game, now have a philosophical debate with Mei Ling about love and war, or like why memories exist, or anything like that. Like, you know what I mean? But again, none of that stuff matters too much when it gets back to the good stuff, because I think it's really good. I think, again, the characters, the sequences and stuff like that, all really good. And when you're just doing your thing in this game, whether you're stealthing around, taking out dudes, running from BTs, the music is great. There's a lot of really good music in this game, but specifically it's like scenario stuff, like when you're just like in an encounter or you're in an enemy base. It's got such a good like Terminator 1 style music that just hits really hard. But then also when you get these interesting cutscenes, especially some that delve into characters' backstories, there is just some really good music that I think rivals some of his best, at least in terms of like cinematic feel. And just how well it works for the story. I think when music is really done right in a movie or a game, it can actually add to the emotion. Like, it can make you feel way more emotional than sometimes writing or dialogue can. And this game had a lot of that, and it had a lot of powerful moments. And I think what helped me along with the ride, story and pacing wise, is also Sam, the main character, who really operates as a vessel. He's a man of few words for various reasons. And in the first game, for me, it was just a little too much, where it felt like they just didn't have enough time with him in the voiceover booth. Like, I don't know, like I didn't connect with him in the first game. Here I did, because as much as he's still very simple, he doesn't talk too much, he just had a way more active role in the story. Things were really connected to him in ways that I found more interesting this time around. And also, he is a little bit more involved. Again, if he doesn't always speak much, he'll still chime in. He'll also just show up in random cutscenes when other characters do something, and he'll, you know, wait. He's kind of like in this DHV Magellan crew and all these new characters that are set up. He's kind of like the weird guy. He's like the weird odd man out, but also the one that is kind of the glue. he's doing the thing. He's the one out there like delivering packages for really contrived reasons and crazy shit to save the world. And all these people are along for the ride with him. They are leaning on him. So to me, I don't know. It sounds like I'm kind of like flailing here, but like I just think he was more effective this time around in a lot of ways. And I know he had very personal connections to the story in the first game, but I just think the way they went about it in this one was more interesting, a little bit more from Norman Reedus, giving him a little bit more to chew on, letting more characters like directly back and forth converse with him. What also worked for me with Sam, what really helped elevate Sam for me was Dollman. Dollman is his companion for the whole time. He's like Mimir to Kratos on his hip. Dollman is a little puppet guy that I loved him. He's very much kind of like an instructional, expositional character for a lot of it, but I loved him. I love the voice actor. I just love the whole vibe, the whole strange nature of it. Again, it's something, and it's kind of like the theme of this whole thing, right? It's something that I haven't seen before, something weird, and something interesting that just like really worked for me. Weird doll guy on your hip chiming in. He's also operating at a different frame rate than the rest of the world. Also, there's quite a few like little twists and turns in the plot here, and I'm not spoiling any, but for me, they're like 50-50. Some of them landed and some of them I was like, ooh, okay, great, cool. But again, I think it just still was a good ride that I was happy to go along with. And by the end of the adventure, I was like, holy shit, that was great. Is it one of my favorite games ever? No. Is it my favorite Hideo Kojima game ever? No, absolutely not. But I think what Death Stranding 1 has really well, and what it has here is like, you have this weird gameplay construction. You have these oddball mechanics that let you just do whatever you want, but ultimately go and deliver packages. You have to pay attention to where you're walking. You have to use tools to traverse the environment. You're sometimes going to kill guys and do stuff, but ultimately some cool music will come on. You'll listen to that music. You'll vibe out. You look at these incredible landscapes. You'll be exposed to music you've never heard. Otherwise, you'll be exposed to art, actors, character, anything that you haven't been exposed to previously. And I don't know, that's just a good vibe. But also, Death Stranding 2 over Death Stranding 1 proves once again like how good Hideo Kojima is at what I call quote unquote teenage boy shit. But I mean that respectfully. But what I mean by that is cool guys, sick guns, fucking killing people, robot dogs, crazy monsters, just the stuff that I like. Death Stranding 2, to me, really once again reminds us why Hideo Kojima and co. are so good at that stuff and why people have been paying attention to their games for so long. Is it a game for everybody? No, absolutely not. Is it more accessible than the first game? Because now you can just kill guys or like, you know, drive a truck across these environments? Yes, but it still to me feels like it is unabashedly itself. It's strange, it's weird, it's interesting. And even if some people don't like this game, these are the games I think that should be at least advocated for or accepted, because everything being homogenized and everything being a sequel, at the very least, we still have these types of games that are like high end, high budget, but deeply, deeply weird. And I say weird respectfully. When I say weird, I mean something we haven't seen or experienced before. So again, not like talking Death Stranding 2 like the second coming of Christ, but I found it really, really engaging from a story standpoint, and I was also just more hooked into the loop this time around. I like this world, this screwed up, fractured world with all this weird shit going on. And I like these characters, and I'm just very much here for iconic, incredible moments, cool stuff, good boss battles, some interesting reveals, some chaos. And it was just a game I was very happy to experience. I was in the mood for that type of thing. You got to be in the mood for a Death Stranding, and I certainly was. Is it going to be my number one game of the year? No. I am a Hideo Kojima fanboy, but I can admit that the game has its faults, and it didn't quite attach to me like some other games that have released this year, some of which I haven't even really talked about on this channel that much, but I will eventually. But I've clearly talked way too long about Death Stranding 2. I'm looking at like the time count on this. Thank you for listening to me ramble about this. I still didn't even go on and on about how the photo mode is kind of a little like weird, voyeuristic. I don't know, whatever. It didn't really bother me that much, but it did remind me of the photo mode from VR missions from Metal Gear Solid back in the day, which I do have here. that photo mode that people are like, wow, that's so interesting. That's so like straight, like it's ripped straight from this. Now I'm starting to sound like a crazy person, but what were we talking? Yeah, thank you for listening to me ramble about Metal Gear, Death Stranding 2. Let me know in the comments what you think. I'll be totally honest. If you're like, I hate this game, it's overrated, you're all stupid. I don't really listen to those comments. I get it, but like, if there's a more constructive argument to that, I would love to hear it. Definitely. I get why some people don't like this game, but let me know. If you don't like it, if you think I'm like up my ass about it, let me know. But like, and let me know if you do enjoy it, because I want to hear from you also. Let me know if you've been playing it, working your way through it. Maybe you're like trying to 100% it. I definitely put a lot of time into some of those deliveries. Let me know if you are opting for stealth more. Let me know if you're opting for combat more. Let's talk anything really Death Stranding 2. Try not to spoil it for people. We'll save that for a spoiler video down the line, but thank you if you've listened to me talk for this long. I appreciate it. Clicking the like button does help me because, number one, Hideo Kojima games are like my favorite things to talk about, really. So that, but also I'm just talking about stuff I love here, stuff I find interesting. So thank you. But that's it. I'm Jake Baldino. Subscribe because video games. Pizza's on me. See ya.